recognition. But if it's your first marathon and you win a medal, I think it deserves a proclamation. And so I am here to ask Miss Anna Kate Leiter to come to the front. And she's going to have a real hard talk to her daddy tonight. But two things. I would like to have the honor of presenting. Now look, this is after 26 miles, by the way. And let me just say, she did 1,900 miles of training. Now just to put that in perspective, that's if you were to run from here to Calgary, Canada. That's a long way. So I have the privilege of presenting. Your medal came in. I bet you didn't know that, did you? I know. So, we need the Olympic music, please. There you go. And I would ask our city attorney, if he would, to read the proclamation for Ms.
Whereas today we recognize Anna Kate Leiter for her outstanding achievement in the Chicago Marathon. Anna Kate is a graduate of Hoover High School and is a sophomore at the University of Alabama. And whereas the Chicago Marathon is held every October in Chicago, Illinois, it is designated as one of the 6 world marathon majors, the others being Tokyo, Boston, London, Berlin, and New York. And the Chicago Marathon is the 4th largest race by number of finishers worldwide. And whereas the Chicago Marathon is limited to 45,000 runners and only runners who finish within 6.5 hours are officially timed. And whereas Anna Kate completed the Chicago Marathon on October 10th, 2021, it was her first full marathon race. And whereas Anna Kate ran a total of 1,901 miles in 2021 in training and preparation for this race, whereas a total of 35,000 runners started the race, 52 of which were in Anna Kate's age group of 19 and under. And whereas her finishing time of 4:03:09 earned her a 2nd place finish and a commemorative award medal, now therefore be it resolved that we, the mayor and city council of the city of Hoover, hereby congratulate Anna Kate Leiter for her outstanding achievement in the Chicago Marathon and invite all citizens to join in recognizing the importance of personal fitness and competition.
There's some words being said. Let's make sure we sign it before. Let's see. And this is fitting. We just talked about running a race and what it does to keep you healthy. This month is American Heart Month, and so we want to recognize the American Heart Association. Is Lizzie Willicott here? Come on up, Lizzie. And Josh Till and Marcella Roberts. Lizzie is the executive director, and Josh is the Director of Communications and Marketing, and Marcella is the Southeastern Regional Board Chair. And we would like to, again, have our city attorney, if he would, read the proclamation in honor of the American Heart Month.
Whereas cardiovascular disease affects men, women, and children of every age and race in the United States, from 2019 through 2020, deaths from heart disease increased by 4.8%. The largest increase in heart disease deaths since 2012, and stroke deaths increased in the same period by 6%. Cardiovascular disease continues to be the leading cause of death in the United States. And whereas in 2015, cardiovascular disease accounted for $555 billion in healthcare expenditures and lost productivity, and by 2035, cardiovascular disease will account for $1.093 trillion in healthcare expenditures and lost productivity annually. And whereas the global COVID-19 disease pandemic poses significantly high risk to individuals with cardiovascular disease and risk factors, whereas individuals in the U.S. have made great progress in reducing the death rate for cardiovascular disease, but this progress has been more modest with respect to the death rate for cardiovascular disease in women and minorities. And whereas cardiovascular diseases are the #1 killer of women in the U.S., killing more women than all forms of cancer combined, and cardiovascular disease is the leading cause of maternal death in the U.S., or more simply put, heart disease is the #1 killer of new moms. And whereas women, especially Black and Hispanic women, are disproportionately impacted by heart disease and stroke, and research shows heart attacks are on the rise in younger women, now therefore I, Frank V. Mercado, Mayor of the City of Hoover, in recognition of the importance of the ongoing fight against heart disease and stroke, do hereby proclaim February 2022 as American Heart Month in Hoover, and urge all citizens to show their support for the fight against heart disease by commemorating this month as American Heart Month.
Good evening, everyone. And thank you guys for helping us celebrate American Heart Month. You know, this is such an important month for us. It is like our Super Bowl, if you will. It's the most important month of the year. And the reason being is not only because it affects everyone, it's the #1 killer. It's heart disease. And so what I want you guys to think about is, you know, it's the #1 killer of Alabamians. It's over 16,000 people every year. That's our sisters, that's our brothers, that's our sons, our daughters, our parents, our neighbors. It's our community. That's enough to fill the entire Hoover Met twice. That's 16,000 lives too many. So this year, we don't all have to be marathon runners like Anna Kate, which fantastic, congratulations. That's so awesome. And I think what we all aspire to be is fit, right, and healthy. And so if you guys remember nothing else, I just hope that you guys will remember that while the pandemic is going on, this is our time to take care of ourselves. Make sure we're eating healthy, we're working out. Again, we don't have to be marathon runners. It's baby steps. It's doing yoga. It's getting out, going on a little walk with your puppy dog or your child. I know I'm a new mom and my health has been put on the back burner. That's part of being a mom, right? And so this year I've made a commitment to my son and to my family that I'm gonna get out, I'm gonna exercise, I'm gonna eat healthy, I'm gonna get moving, I'm gonna do all the things so I can live a longer, healthier life. And so I hope that today you guys are encouraged and you're motivated to not only make the commitment to bring awareness to the #1 killer, but also make a healthy lifestyle change. Do it for your family, for your community, because we all need you here for a really long time, making great things happen right here in Hoover. So thank you all, and I hope you guys have a great night.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And we have Miss Shelley Shaw. Shelley, would you, well, I saw, yeah, there you are. Hello, come on up. This is Be Kind Week and Pink Shirt Day. It's the Hoover City Schools Foundation. Students from both Spain Park and Hoover High are participating in this. And it's an opportunity for us as human beings to be kind, not only this week, but all the time. Mr. City Attorney.
Whereas the City of Hoover recognizes that any day, week, or month is a good time to remind us all of the need to remember that respect, dignity, compassion, and humility are 4 essential ingredients in the creation and maintenance of a civilized society. And whereas in the heart of all of us lies the idea that we hold the power of kindness within us, by knowing and understanding and actually using this power, we have the ability to send out a positive ripple that may travel for miles. And whereas no one, no matter how young or how small, is too little to make a difference in our community and our world. Whereas through acts of kindness, we can promote healthy behaviors and positive dynamics within our schools and community. And whereas we seek to stand up to bullying in our schools, workplaces, and community, whereas we seek to cultivate caring, kindness, and compassion within our schools and community through our youth by teaching them that kindness is the mark you leave on the world. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Mayor Frank V. Bricado, do hereby urge the citizens of our community to join us in observing the week of February 12th through 19th, 2022 as Be Kind Week and February 16th as Pink Shirt Day in the city of Hoover.
Thank you so much, Mayor, for this time in front of the audience and in front of the council. Thank you, President Lyda, for letting us do this evening. I asked these students, they're student board members from our Hoover City Schools Foundation Board, representing 9th through 12th grade, and they're all from either Spain Park or Hoover High. So thank you for doing this with me tonight, and thank you for being the example that you are at your schools. We look forward to next week. Find your pink shirt. I know you have a pink button tonight, but we're gonna really bring it next week with the pink. So thank you, students, and thank you so much.
Thank you. And next, how cool is this? The Spain Park High School Varsity Boys Bowling Team. They are here tonight in our chambers. Come on up. Coach Stephen Hobbs, assistant coach Lillian Singleton, and we have team members Russell Parton, Liam Hilson, Cole Henson, Ethan Lee, Michael Kimball, Lucas Mitchell, Luke Belmont, and Luke Eaton. And this is their third state championship. Wow. And we would like to recognize them with a proclamation. So, Mr. City Attorney.
Whereas today we recognize Spain Park High School Varsity Boys Bowling Team for their remarkable 2021-22 season and commend Coach Stephen Hobbs, Assistant Coach Lillian Singleton, and team members Russell Parton, Liam Hilson, Cole Henson, Ethan Lee, Michael Kimball II, Lucas Mitchell, Luke Belmont, and Luke Eaton on their notable accomplishments and historic win. Whereas the team ended the regular season with 15 wins and 3 losses, and whereas the team placed as runner-up in the Alabama High School Athletic Association's Class 6A, 7A Regional Championship Tournament, and whereas the team won the Alabama High School Athletic Association's Class 6A, 7A State Championship Tournament, and whereas Cole Henson, a senior, was named the Alabama High School Athletic Association's Class 6A, 7A State Tournament Champion, beating all other bowlers individually with a 3-game cumulative score of 683. And whereas by winning their third state championship, the team has the distinction of being the only Class 6A, 7A high school varsity boys bowling team in the state of Alabama to have won multiple championship tournaments in 2016, 2017, and 2022. And whereas under the leadership of Principal Larry Giangrosso, Athletic Director Patrick Kellogg, the teachers and staff at Spain Park High School have been instrumental in supporting the team and coaches. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the Mayor and City Council of the City of Hoover, hereby congratulate the 2021-2022 Spain Park High School Varsity Boys Bowling Team and their coaches for winning the Alabama High School Athletic Association's Class 6A and 7A State Championship Tournament, and invite all citizens to join in recognizing the importance of the sport of bowling.
Are there any parents that'd like to come take a picture? You're more than welcome to come down and do so.
You guys go. As they're going to sit down, I just want to say, number one, these guys worked really hard. A lot of these guys just didn't start bowling until last year, and they just fall in love with the sport and just have really worked hard. But I really just want to commend this lady right here. She's a volunteer coach. Every day at practice, every day, every match, she lives and breathes bowling, and we would not be where we are without Coach Lillian Singleton, and we just appreciate her.
Well, we talk often about our volunteers. Coach, that's a great example, and we certainly appreciate her service and yours as well. And tonight, we want to recognize our beautification board and for Arbor Day, and we've got a big crowd here, Christine, don't we? Louise Billings, if y'all would just come up, Holly Fondant, Christine Hoffman, Betty Daigle, Kristen Mathis, Patricia Narrow, Patrick Reed, Charlene Young, Donna Towns, Carolyn Hudson, Meredith Carpenter, Liz Elliott, Jean Ingram, Sarah Johnson, Miss Sarah Perry, as everybody knows, and Miss Pat Lawley. We are so grateful for this group. You're talking about a working group. This is a working group. We're not here to really recognize them for that. We're here to proclaim Arbor Day, but this is a hands-on group. I could talk all day and tell a lot of great stories, but for the moment, we are going to ask our city attorney if he would read the proclamation.
Whereas in 1872, Mr. J. Sterling Morton championed Alabama's first Arbor Day celebration in Nebraska City, Nebraska, where more than 1 million trees were planted. And in 1887, Alabama Governor Thomas C. signed the state's first Arbor Day proclamation. And in 1975, the Alabama State Legislature adopted an act designating the last full week in February as Arbor Week in Alabama. And whereas it was the purpose of that designation, as well as the designation of Arbor Day throughout the nation, to encourage the planting of trees, encourage sound tree conservation, and encourage the protection of trees and forests from destructive pests, wildfire, vandalism, and practices that degrade forest health, beauty, and sustainability. And whereas through the cooperation of all Hoover residents, businesses, and governments recognizing the beneficial effects of healthy trees and forests, practicing sound tree conservation, and protecting trees from their natural and unnatural enemies, Hoover can pass on the enduring and vital heritage of its urban forest resource to succeeding generations. And whereas in appreciation for the exemplary leadership and dedication displayed by the Hoover Beautification Board member, Michael L. Zarignac, in organizing Hoover's Arbor Day celebrations from 1999 to 2013, all future Hoover Arbor Day celebrations shall be conducted in a manner that will honor Mike's memory and his undeniable passion for trees. Now, therefore, I, Frank V. Bricato, Mayor of the City of Hoover, do hereby proclaim Saturday, March 5th, 2022, as Arbor Day in Hoover, Alabama. I urge everyone able to do so to observe this day through the planting of one or more trees and/or through participation in one or more programs that the sponsors of Arbor Day may provide.
So as Mayor Bricato said, the Arbor Day event will take place on Saturday, March 5th, and it will be from 9 a.m. to noon, and there will be tree giveaways at 3 different locations in Hoover, one at the Hoover Randall home, the second location is at the Aldrich Gardens, and the third location will be at Greystone Elementary. So there will be some lovely trees to choose from, and it's first come, first serve. So we would love to see you there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I will call a few of you back up in just a moment. One of the coolest pictures that you've seen on Facebook is one of our big police officers, and he's walking down the hall, and he's got this little kid, little bitty boy, walking hand in hand with him in one of our schools. That's one of our school resource officers. And we couldn't be more proud of what our officers do and what they mean to our kids in our schools and to our teachers and to our community. They're top-notch. They go above and beyond the call of duty each and every day, taking care of our children, protecting them, and just being counselors, mentors. There's no telling what you guys get asked and some of the secrets that you hold from these kids. I'm sure it's you could tell some stories all on your own. We're grateful for your service, and today is School Resource Officer Appreciation Day, and we have Sergeant Harris, Officer Pace, Officer Lopez, and Officer Berry here today. If they would come down, and we'd like to have our city attorney, if he would read the proclamation, I sure would appreciate that.
Whereas the National Association of School Resource Officers, or NASRO, is dedicated to making schools and children safer by providing the highest quality training to school-based law enforcement officers. And whereas school resource officers, or SROs, bridge gap between youth and law enforcement and embrace a triad concept of school policing, serving in informal counseling, education, and law enforcement roles to support students and communities they serve. And whereas by training law enforcement officers to counsel, educate, and protect school communities, the men and women of NASRO continuously lead by example and promote a positive image of law enforcement to school children and school communities. And whereas SRO programs across the globe are founded as collaborative efforts by police agencies, law enforcement officers, educators, students, parents, and communities to create safe learning environments, provide valuable resources to school staff members, foster positive relationships with students, and develop strategies to resolve problems that affect youth with the goal of protecting all children so they can reach their fullest potential. And whereas school resource officers are valuable and essential members of the education community and deserve unwavering respect and support from the public in pursuit of keeping schools and students safe, now therefore be it resolved that I, Mayor Frank V. Burcato, do hereby proclaim February 15th as School Resource Officer Appreciation Day, a special day to show appreciation for school-based law enforcement officers, and encourages all citizens to show their gratitude with displays of support and personal messages.
We're fortunate in our city, the School Resource Officer, that organization is housed in our Public Safety Center, run by one of our former police officers, Mo Kennedy, and they go out. They have a reach all over the world, and it comes right out of Hoover, Alabama, which is pretty cool. So I said earlier that I talked a little bit about our beautification board and all of the great things that they do, and it really is a hands-on group, particularly around Christmas time. They're up here and just decorate our council chambers, the outside, the inside, all 3 floors are decorated beautifully, and it's just a labor-intensive day, but they pour their heart and soul into it and do just a fantastic job. And I see so many families, I think, from all over the metro come and take pictures for their Christmas cards right here, and either inside, some come inside City Hall to take pictures or out by the trees. But that's just one of the many things that they do throughout the year, and we're so grateful for them and Christine Hoffman and her leadership as the president. So we have 4 new, 3, 4, 1. We have 4. We have 4 new members that you know, when they step up to do this, they're stepping up to put some time into it. And I would ask Carolyn Hudson. Carolyn resides in Greystone. She and her husband have lived here for 42 years. Carolyn, come on up. They were here before Hoover even incorporated. They worked to see Hoover become a city. They raised their 6 children here. Now they enjoy seeing their 12 of their 16 grandchildren, my goodness, grow up in the Hoover area. Over the years, Carolyn has served our community in a variety of capacities. She served many years as room mother. She's also been on the PTSO, a band booster member. Carolyn's actively involved in the Alabama Wildlife Center, which is dedicated to rehabbing and releasing injured waterfowl. She's worked at Hoover Lake and Lake Heather, and she also currently serves on the Lake Heather Estates Landscape Committee and the Greystone Farms Landscape Committee. We welcome Carolyn. And secondly, we have Patrick Reed. Patrick is employed at Alabama Power as a real estate specialist. In addition to being actively involved in the community, Patrick is a talented musician. We will put you. What do you play? I don't see that on here. Banjo. We'll get you if you. His band, the Goat. Oh, that tells me right there what he plays. The Goat Hill String Band. That's great. Plays a mix of classic pop, rock. I don't see bluegrass. I thought that's what it was going to be. Patrick is married to Katie, and they have a 5-year-old son. Welcome, Patrick. And then we have Donna Towns. Donna, please come up. Donna resides in Greystone, and she recently relocated to Hoover from Montgomery after retiring from her career as a CPA for the RSA. Throughout her career, Donna has served on various committees and boards, and she was director of the PHIP Insurance. She also is past president of the Government Accountants Association, the Montgomery chapter. She served as a board member on the National Public Sector Healthcare Roundtable and was actively involved in a variety of tax-related organizations. Donna, welcome. Thank you. And then Charlene Young. Charlene has been a resident of Hoover for 30 years, and she's very familiar to our children in Hoover schools because she was the school nurse there. Charlene worked at Green Valley, eventually at Hoover High, where she became the lead nurse over all the Hoover City School health rooms and was instrumental in helping create many state-wide health room policies for all public schools. Charlene and her husband have 2 daughters and 1 grandchild. They live in Hoover. She's an active member of River Chase United Methodist and enjoys supporting local missions and Habitat for Humanity. And later in the evening, I will ask the council on their agenda to give a concurrence vote, but we're so grateful that y'all have joined this outstanding group of individuals that serve our city regularly in so many ways. I've already had an opportunity to work with many of you, and we look forward to several years. I think this is like a 6-year commitment. You're going to be here a long time. So thank you so much. We'd like to take a quick picture if we could, and let's welcome them.
Sure. Is there anyone that doesn't have a certificate or a proclamation? We can get you one. Okay. Let's see where I'm at. That's a long one. Good job, Mayor. Thank you very much. Thanks, everyone, for your patience as we work through those important announcements and proclamations. I want to recognize former Councilman Joe Reeves. Joe, welcome back to the chamber. It's always a pleasure to have you here. We have a special guest in the chamber that Councilman McClinton would like to introduce.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to introduce Ms. Susan DeBose to come speak to the council and talk about your candidacy. Y'all all know Susan. As she walks up, she has served in the community of Hoover for a very long time, and she wants to represent our fine city.
I want to stand on this ledge. Do I look taller? Hello, y'all. I am Susan DeBose, and I'm running for Alabama House 45. And I am so thrilled to be here tonight and officially announce that I have qualified to run for office. You may not realize this, but Hoover does not have a representative that actually lives in the city of Hoover down in Montgomery. And they haven't since about the mid-'70s. So wouldn't you say it's about time that we had a representative from our city down in Montgomery? So I'm here to be that person. I'm from Greystone, and I have actually lived in Hoover for 23 years. My children grew up in Hoover, went to Spain Park, all the way through the Hoover City Schools, and I could not be more proud to be a part of this community. And the more I campaign and visit with everybody, the more I learn to appreciate and love Hoover and, honestly, Shelby County, of which we're a part of, and this whole state. I'm just so thankful for all of you guys here. But let me tell you a little bit about me and why I'm running, because that's what I get asked. Why are you running for office? Why are you doing this? So let me tell you, I've been in Hoover, like I said, about 23 years. And most recently, after my kids grew up, I became very involved in politics. I'm president of the Republican Women of North Shelby County. I've been involved in peripheral roles of politics and a support role. And so I've watched all of this going on for a number of years. And it gets to the point where you see that your own representative is really not representing you. He lives in another city, in Leeds, in my case. He's not out and about in the community. Nobody even knows who he is. And when you start watching the way he votes, that really is concerning. So having been so close to politics over all these years, I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna throw my name in the hat and I'm gonna run against him. And come to find out, that's not something that's done very often. And why not? I don't know. But if you are a citizen and you believe that you can do a better job than somebody else, then throw your name in the hat and go for it. So just to tell you a little bit about me, I'm not gonna take up a lot of time, but how am I qualified? Why am I doing this? I'm actually a Mississippi girl. I grew up on the bayou in Ocean Springs, Mississippi, but I came to Alabama to go to college. I went to the University of South Alabama, got a finance degree, went on to Spring Hill, got a master's degree, came up and with my husband, who is a CPA, and worked for Compass Bank for a number of years where I was a commercial loan officer and I made construction and real estate loans. I analyzed financial statements and I made loans to businesses. So I had to think through the process of whether a business was financially liable. I had to analyze their statements and decide whether we should loan them money. So I've learned how to analyze situations and how to look at things with a healthy amount of skepticism. And that's how I'm going to view my role as a legislator. I intend to be conservative. I'm an unapologetic conservative. I intend to be fiscally conservative. And I intend to analyze everything they do down there with a healthy amount of skepticism and make my vote based on that. In addition to that, I'm going to be active. I'm going to be involved in the community. Y'all are going to know who I am. They're going to know who I am throughout my district. And so one last thing, let me tell you where my district is, so you know if you can vote for me or you know if you have friends that can vote for me. So District 45 is on the east side of Hoover and northeast part of Shelby County and parts of Jefferson County. So it includes Leeds, all of the Greystones, Highland Lakes, the Donovan Valley area, Chelsea, Mount Laurel, Shoal Creek, that whole area there. So it's a kind of a hodgepodge of areas, but it's mostly Shelby County and Jefferson County. So I would appreciate your vote. Again, my name is Susan DeBose, and if you know any people in that area, please spread the word. I'm happy to get to know everybody, and I really appreciate y'all giving me the time to speak to you here tonight. This is a delight, and it's honestly a highlight for me to run and represent the city of Hoover and Montgomery. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bose. That brings us to our regular agenda. We did not have a work session on Thursday night. However, I understand there may be a motion to consider several of these items in one block vote.
Yes, Mr. President, I would like to consider items number 6 through 20 with the exception of number 8 and number 12 in a single vote, sir.
We have a motion to consider those items 6 through 20.
Second.
Excluding the 2, and a second. Is there anyone from the council who would like to remove any other items besides the 2 that Mr. Posey mentioned? Is there anyone in the audience who has come to speak to any one of these items? Again, those are items 6 through 20 with the exception of 8 and 12. If you are here to speak on any one of those items, we would be happy to remove it from this block vote and consider it separately. Hearing and seeing none, Mr. Corley, if you'll please read the resolutions.
Yes, item 6 is the approval of the minutes from the January 13th, 2022 work session and January 18th, 2022 meeting. Resolution 663422 concurs with the mayor's appointment of the following 4 members to the Beautification Board: Charlene Young, Donna Towns, Carolyn Hudson, and Patrick Reed. Resolution 663322 approves the tax abatement of certain non-educational property taxes for a period of 10 years and construction-related transaction taxes for a period of 2 years for the Lake Homes Realty, and that's coming off and going to be on the regular agenda.
Yes, sir.
Resolution 663522 reschedules regular meetings of the Hoover City Council. The 4th of July meeting on Monday, July 4th, 2022 is rescheduled to Tuesday, July 5th, 2022, and the Labor Day meeting on September 5th, 2022 is rescheduled for Tuesday, September 6th, 2022. Resolution 663622 approves an alcohol license for T 1170 LLC doing business as Alford Avenue Chevron for the sale of 050 retail beer off premises only and 070 retail table wine off premises only. Resolution 663722 approves an alcohol license for T1173 LLC doing business as Alford Avenue Chevron for the sale of 050 retail beer off premises only and 070 retail table wine off premises only. Resolution 663922, which is item 13, authorizes the mayor to execute an application to apply for the AFG micro grant as well as any other necessary documentation. Resolution 664022 amends the budget for the fiscal year ending September 30, 2021 as set forth in Exhibit A. Resolution 664122 amends the budget for fiscal year ending September 30, 2022 as set forth in Exhibit A. Resolution 664222 authorizes the mayor to enter into an agreement with AlDOT for road work on Valleydale Road from US 31 to River Chase Parkway East and other additional lanes. Resolution 664322 accepts the bid of Dunn Construction Company for street resurfacing in the city of Hoover for an amount not to exceed $2,778,705.54 and authorizes the Mayor Bricado to execute an agreement related thereto. Resolution 664422 declares certain property owned by the city of Hoover not needed for public or municipal purposes for the next 4 years, authorizes the lease of certain equipment of the city of Hoover for public purposes to the city of Pelham, Alabama, and authorizes Mayor Bricado to execute a lease agreement related thereto. Resolution 664522 approves the revision of the Hoover Personnel Policy, City of Hoover Personnel Policy and Procedures Manual as set forth in Exhibit 1 to the resolution. And Resolution 664622 authorizes Mayor Bricado to execute an agreement regarding obligations under the Rossbridge PUD plan with Daniel Rossbridge LLC as authorized agent for USS Real Estate in substantially the form attached as Exhibit 1 to the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Corley. We have a motion and a second for approval of items 6 through 20 with the exception of numbers 8 and 12. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. We'll begin now with item number 8, resolution number 6633-22. Mr. Corley.
This resolution approves the tax abatement of certain non-educational property taxes for a period of 10 years and construction-related transaction taxes for a period of 2 years for Lake Homes Realty LLC project, subject to the terms of the tax abatement agreement attached to the resolution.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution number 6633-22.
Second.
Motion and a second. Mr. Knighton.
Mr. President, thank you for allowing me to address the council tonight. One of the more rewarding parts of the jobs that Ms. Wyatt and I get to do are visiting with our existing industries and getting to know more about what they do in our great city. And we frequently get to do that in conjunction with Shelby County, and we're joined tonight by our colleague, Amy, I'm drawing a total blank. Sturdivant. I was about to say it. I apologize. Amy almost said Steislinger, and I knew that wasn't right. Amy Sturdivant with 58 Inc., Shelby County's economic development arm. But we recently, back in October, had the opportunity to learn about a growth opportunity and a company in Hoover that had the need to grow out of about 15,000 square feet of space and triple that space. And they were looking throughout the metro area as well as in other states. And I'm joined tonight by Glenn Phillips, who's the CEO of Lake Homes Realty, and Doris Phillips, who is the president and CEO of RealSource. They're Hoover residents, and they have coined the term they're a dual entrepreneurial household here in the city. And Lake Homes is a tech-enabled company that uses technology to market vacation homes throughout the country. They're based in 33 states. And Doris runs RealSource, which is a sister company that's considering a relocation along with Lake Homes here in the city that handles more of the financing side of that. But Lake Homes, over the next 3 to 4 years, would be creating almost 300 jobs here in the city of Hoover and retaining 50 jobs that they already have. They have looked at several areas in the city, but are particularly interested in 42 Inverness, where they would take 2.5 floors of office space. And that would very much add to the city's comprehensive plan, which, as you know, calls for a technology corridor to continue to be built along the Highway 280 corridor. Lake Homes capital investment would be about $1 million in computer equipment and other things to make that operation to continue growing. Their average wage would be over $52,000 a year and would include positions in management, customer service, marketing, technology, finance, and other similar type operations. And their project actually qualifies, as you know, for statutory abatements under the Tax Incentive Reform Act of 1992, which allows the council to abate certain non-educational, and we always emphasize anything we do in economic development helps education, but certain non-educational sales and use and personal property taxes. So the total value of the abatements that the council could abate for city, county, and state would be $102,645, the Hoover portion of which would be 43,411 jobs. They also would be working with AIDT, the state's workforce training program, where they would receive over $1 million in training assistance through AIDT that would help not only Lake Homes, but RealSource as well. Based on our impact analysis done here in the city, we believe that from property taxes, building permits, fees, and indirect sales taxes spent in the city, that Lake Homes expansion would benefit the city by over $500,000 over the next 10 years, and the impact to Hoover City Schools from property taxes would be over $200,000 over the next 10 years. So again, once we're adding potentially teacher units or other needed necessary resources in Hoover City Schools. So I very much want to recommend a favorable approval on behalf of Mr. and Ms. Phillips, and I'd love for them to have the opportunity, if council would like, to talk a little bit about their project and their business and answer any questions you may have, and then I'm happy to answer any as well. Glenn, Doris.
Thank you. Good evening. Appreciate the opportunity to come speak with you. Prior to this, sort of our quick story, I've been in custom software design development systems, so the Hired Gun's a lifestyle company for much of my career. I'm a nerd, computer engineer. Doris has spent most of her career in title insurance, real estate closings for, real estate title. And we've been in Hoover since, it actually didn't dawn on me how time flies, and we've had such a pleasing experience. I've lived in Hoover more than any place my whole life, even as a kid, even though I think of my roots in Bear Creek, Alabama, the big metro area. But as we were running her business and mine, we got approached with the opportunity to look at Lake Homes Realty, lakehomes.com. And it was real interesting. If you think about being an entrepreneur, wouldn't you love an investment banker to come say, we have this business, we couldn't figure out how to generate revenue. Our business model is probably flawed. All the employees we hired have left except for one. He leaves for Google in a month. All the capital we raised, we spent, and we have debt. Would you like to run this business?
We'll give you a part of it.
And so we actually worked with those investors for 15 months to figure out why. why do this? The real estate industry is super crowded. In fact, it was already headed this way pre-pandemic, but there are more licensed real estate agents in the country than there are homes for sale. And we felt that what we're doing in the lake-type property is just the tip of the spear of the opportunity. Amazon used books to figure out how to make their business work, and lakes are what we're doing. 1 out of 30 U.S. adults used our website last year. And so we are really a technical marketing company that uses traditional real estate brokerage with our own agents, no franchising, operating all over the country and still growing. And as we run this company, RealSource was a key part of Doris growing that piece of the business. Not only that, we're pretty excited about the community aspect. Long before we even got in this, Doris actually started a nonprofit that's very involved in a big piece of what we're doing as well, which is not directly related, but it's part of our mission. I don't know if you want to share.
I do.
Okay.
So I do own RealSource outright myself, but I'm also part owner and COO of Lake Combs Realty, and we are currently licensed in 34 states, and our business model is that we are having very small offices in places that the commissions in the other states require, but all of the back office and all of the support staff and all of the parts and pieces work right here out of our Hoover office. And now with the title insurance company, I'm beginning to, so to speak, circle the wagon with that, and we'll use the same business model. We're now licensed in 12 states. We'll have 1 to 2 team members off-site, but then all of the back office and support and work will actually be done here in our Hoover office. And for our nonprofit, the Circle of Love, we support local children in and around shelters and local children, and we've sponsored over 7,000 children since 2004 between Christmas and back-to-school supplies.
Doris has been often named on some of the business women to watch, and I have the ace in the hole. I'm not a licensed agent, but she's a broker in 7 states, about to be 8. So she's probably one of the most knowledgeable real estate people in the country, and it's been fun to grow this. As we move forward, we really had the opportunity. Our investors are accustomed to businesses in different parts of the country. Much of where they've done those investments or navigated, been everywhere. We were given complete latitude, though, of where do we want to place? What do we want to do this? We've looked and evaluated, but we've been very pleased, and we think Hoover's, while it's not only our home, we don't have kids at home. We have portability, but we just think the opportunity here is ripe for growth. We think there's a base. We're really a sales marketing company, and we think that the jobs we create will not only be to bring people here, but the reinvestment. A lot of the folks we hire, paying it forward, we hire people, and many of the people who have really, really grown. Some have even graduated and moved to other jobs, and we kind of consider them our alums. But we're excited. We think that after getting started, that it was taking from no money into now being on the Inc. 5000 for 5 years. But we actually think that's our baby step, and so does our board. They said, with what's coming in the economy and real estate's going to be reinvented, and we're positioning to be a piece of that. So we welcome any questions, and I appreciate your consideration. I will add, one of the things that I had to learn being an engineer, becoming a business person, was I can't just solve problems. This is about who do you partner with. We learned that with our board. We've learned that with our agents across the country and with these opportunities. And so when all of these fine folks from development came, we were pretty ecstatic about that here's another opportunity to work hand in hand. So appreciate consideration. If you have questions, welcome, and if not, we appreciate your time.
Thank you. Any questions from the members for Mr. Knighton? Any questions from the audience? Hearing and seeing none, we have a motion and a second for approval of the resolution. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The motion carries. Congratulations, and thank you for your
Thank you
investment.
very much. Appreciate it very much. Thank you.
That brings us to item number 12, resolution number 6638-22. Mr. Corley.
This resolution authorizes the Birmingham Water Works to install 6 fire hydrants in the Everly Commercial Residential Phase 1, Black Ridge Residential Phase 6, and Black Ridge South Residential Phase 7.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution number 6638-22.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from members of the body?
Mr. President, I will be abstaining from this vote.
Yes, sir. Mr. Murphy will abstain. Any questions or comments from members of the audience? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Moving now to item number 21, an ordinance number 22-2548. Mr. Corley.
This ordinance modifies Chapter 10-36 of the Municipal Code of the City of Hoover to establish an alcohol and drug awareness program and a traffic safety program.
Mr. President, I move for adoption of ordinance number 22-2548.
Second.
We have a motion to second. This does require a public hearing, so we will open the public hearing now and ask if there are any members of the body who wish to comment or ask a question on this item. We had a first reading a couple of weeks ago, and so this is a second reading with a potential vote. Any member of the public like to participate in the public hearing regarding this ordinance? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing. We have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Posey?
Aye.
Mr. Sweeney?
Aye.
Mr. Shaw?
Aye.
Mr. Murphy? Dr. Middlebrooks?
Aye.
Mr. McClinton?
Aye.
Mr. Lyda?
Aye. 7 ayes, 0 nays. The motion carries and the ordinance is adopted. Item number 22 is resolution number 6647-22. Mr. Corley.
This resolution authorizes Mayor Brocato to enter into an agreement with Class Tran for the provision of public transportation services for the elderly, disabled citizens, and rural citizens of the city of Hoover, Alabama.
Mr. President, I move for the approval of resolution number 6647-22.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Henson is here. I know she'll be happy to answer any questions, should there be any. Any questions or comments for Ms. Henson from the members? Any questions or comments from members of the public? Hearing and seeing none, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, and the motion carries. We'll now have first readings for the items number 23 through 26. No vote will be taken tonight. However, we will gather again on Monday, February 7th for a second reading and possible vote. Beginning with the reading of number 23, ordinance number 22-2549, Mr. Corley.
This ordinance amends the Hoover zoning ordinance to modify the administration and review procedures and other sections of the Hoover zoning code.
Mr. Martin.
Yes, Mr. President, good evening. This particular amendment has 9 changes associated with it. I will quickly go through the Cliff Notes version. The first alteration to the ordinance covers review procedures for conditional use applications, revises information required on conditional use plans, and allows waiver for information that staff deems unnecessary for a complete application. It also alters submittal requirements to permit digital copies and a reduction of physical copies to be submitted, and also incorporates the 500-foot notice requirement. This is currently practiced with conditional use applications, but currently in the zoning ordinance is not required. That is a practice that certainly the Planning Commission likes us to do and to ensure adequate notice goes out. So we are incorporating that into the ordinance with that first alteration. The second of 9 alterations covers the creation of senior living and retirement communities as a use classification in our ordinance and provides for permissions concerning which zones that can be permitted in, as well as some development criteria for that use. I know we're seeing a considerable number of these types of projects being contemplated for our city, and therefore we want to be ahead of the game, so to speak, whereas right now it's not a use that's listed specifically with its own development criteria, and we're going through a conditional use process right now. So that should streamline the process and give potential developers a clear indication of what will be required for that use. The third alteration relates to the creation of gymnasiums, fitness, and exercise centers as a unique use classification and given permissions for that use in various commercial districts we have in the city. The fourth is taking a look at our area and dimensional regulations, more specifically the height requirements and limitations in our commercial districts and permitting taller building heights than those previously permitted in commercial zones with conditional use approval. So any project that exceeds the height limits specified in our commercial districts today, right now, that's a hard cap. And so this would allow for enough flexibility for projects that could potentially go above that cap to come to the Planning Commission and the City Council for conditional use consideration. The next item I have is an alteration to the planned unit development use regulations to alter gas stations from permitted by right in PC planned commercial districts to being considered as conditional uses. The next one I have on the list is for Article 9, or supplemental regulations, specifically dealing with accessory buildings and structures. This change would alter the formula for measuring the amount of area permitted for accessory structures to where it would encompass 15% of the entire backyard of a property, rather than 15% of the rear yard as measured from the rearmost point of the home as it is today. That gives applicants a little bit more room to work with, a little bit more square footage that they can add to accessory structures. It also adds a 5-foot required separation between fixed mechanical appurtenances and side property boundaries. This specifically came at the request of the fire department to ensure that there is an unobstructed 5 foot of access space adjacent to those fixed mechanical appurtenances. I will note that fences are not included in that, but rather heavy equipment, HVAC, and the like. The next item that we have is a change to the supplemental regulations as it pertains to private swimming pool equipment. In this, instead of having its own unique setback, we synchronize the setbacks for pool equipment to be the same as those of mechanical appurtenances in the amendment just before. Number 8, we have a change to the supplemental regulations adding site lighting criteria for non-residential or commercial site development. So it would include anything that we take a site plan for, commercial development, multifamily. We currently do not have any site lighting criteria. We actually had some discussion with the Planning Commission on this item. They noticed that we had a number of conditional use cases where we were incorporating some guidelines and conditions for lighting. And so staff was asked, well, why don't we come up with some criteria that we can use, and that way developments know on the front end what they need to do in the way of site lighting. So we did that. And then finally, the last item we have is an amendment to Table 11-1, off-street parking, and this specifically is in relation to townhouse developments. And this alteration provides for additional shared parking for townhome developments. So not only do you have the parking requirements for each individual unit that are already in the zoning code, but there would also be provision for shared parking, overflow parking from that parking requirement on each individual unit. So that encompasses the total amendment that's in front of you, and I can try to entertain questions this evening, or as we go through the course of the next 2 weeks, feel free to reach out if you have any questions.
Certainly a lot to digest, and I think if someone has a question tonight, we certainly can, but I think it would be advisable to study these over the next couple of weeks and communicate with Mr. Martin. If that's okay with the body, we'll do that. That brings us to item number 24, ordinance number 22-2550. Mr. Corley.
This ordinance authorizes the pre-zoning of property for a planned unit development located off Highway 280 pursuant to the Alabama Code under the conditions set forth in the ordinance.
Mr. Martin.
Mr. President, this particular pre-zoning application comes to you tonight on behalf of Signature Homes. This particular pre-zoning covers approximately 15 acres located off of Highway 280 and directly across Highway 280 from the Walmart location on that side of town. It is currently unincorporated Shelby County. There is an annexation petition that is currently residing with the clerk's office, And this pre-zoning application would take that property and place it into a planned unit development should it be annexed. Within that planned unit development, you have approximately 4.5 acres directly on the Highway 280 frontage. More specifically, the roadway is called Old 280. There's a signalized intersection there and currently a pawn shop that occupies part of that frontage. This particular property, this 4.5 acres, would be designated as PC planned commercial. And according to the PUD, there is actually a shopping center plan as a part of the master plan for the PUD. And that shopping center would occupy that 4.5 acres along with the necessary parking, landscaping, and other development criteria. To the rear of that 4.5 acres, you have slightly over 11 acres that would be zoned PR1, planned residential, for a townhome residential component, single-family attached residential. That single-family attached residential would be comprised of 120 units. The development criteria for both the PC district and the PR1 townhome residential sector are included within the PUD ordinance. I would like to note that the PUD ordinance also represents a conditional use application that you would be considering as well. And that conditional use would cover multiple uses contemplated for the site. For the commercial sector, it would permit drive-throughs to be incorporated into the end caps of the shopping center development. And to the rear, in the residential sector, the conditional use would cover on the front end the amenity package that the developer is proposing for that sector.
Any questions for Mr. Martin tonight? I know we have representatives from Signature Homes here as well that would be happy to answer any questions.
I would just note that the Planning Commission, of course, had a favorable recommendation on this, and the comprehensive plan also supports this type of development along that segment of the 280 corridor.
Very good. Thank you, sir. We'll move to item number 25, ordinance number 22-2551. Mr. Corley.
This ordinance repeals ordinance number 224 and amends Chapter 8, Article 8, entitled Massage Parlors as set forth in the ordinance.
Mr. Rice.
Drew the short straw to get to talk about massage parlors, but first, if I could have just a minute of indulgence, Mr. President. We had an event today, and I wanted to publicly commend the police department, Chief Durzis and their members who were here. We had a situation with a robbery, a violent armed robbery of a pharmaceutical delivery van in Bluff Park. And before I could even figure out why all the police cars were zooming past my office window, they had apprehended all 3 of these fleeing violent armed felons in our community. And it's significant to note that where they wrecked their car as they were trying to evade capture is at an intersection you're all familiar with, but on one corner is a daycare center. They literally wrecked in the front yard of the daycare. On another corner is Shades Mountain Elementary School, protected by our school resource officers. On another corner is a synagogue, and on the other corner is a group of small office buildings. So this was not an isolated area, and all of a sudden you have 3 people with guns who've proven that they don't have high regard for law and order. And it is astonishing to me how many times this story is told in our community where somebody comes here and does something they ought not do, and they don't even make it out of town. And if they do, then within a couple of hours, they're back in town at 2020 Valleydale Road with an all-expense paid stay. So I think it's significant before we get into this agenda item that we thank and show our gratitude to our police department. Chief, I hope you'll pass that on to those who put themselves in harm's way today. Now on to more pleasant things. We do not have a significant problem with this industry in the city of Hoover. We have a number of legitimate operators, and I want to thank the members of the council, Mr. Shaw in particular, who worked very hard to make sure that what we're doing here is getting out ahead of this issue without impugning the ability of legitimate operators to work and to run businesses in our city. We have seen, not only nationwide, but in some of our neighboring communities, issues creeping in, essentially organized crime, taking advantage of this therapeutic service and taking advantage of the individuals who provide this service and skirting around some of the state laws and rules of the Massage Therapy Board to do things in a way that doesn't bring honor to our community or to their industry. So we were approached by some of Chief's detectives in their Special Investigation Unit, and they work very hard to make sure that legitimate businesses are not penalized and that criminal activity is not allowed into our city unabated. And they felt like there were a few tools that we could add to this ordinance that would give them a little more enforcement and investigative ability to kind of separate the wheat from the chaff and to make sure that we have reputable businesses operating in Hoover. Vestavia Hills has revised their ordinance. The city of Trussville found themselves in the same boat. And I think what got our attention was Chief let us know last year that we had an application from an operator that was actually kind of being run out of another city due to criminal investigations. And they were looking to set up shop here in Hoover, and we don't want to be that destination. So I'll defer to Mr. Corley for any of the specifics about what will change, but this will give our detectives an enhanced ability to figure out who the licensed operators are, the licensed therapists, make sure that they're doing a legitimate business in the city, and we won't be home to operators that we would not like to host in Hoover.
Very good. Any questions from the members for Mr. Corley or Mr. Rice? This too shall have a second reading in a couple of weeks, and we'll potentially take a vote then. Finally, item number 26, ordinance number 22-2552. Mr. Corley.
This ordinance provides for the licensing of brew pubs within the city through an amendment to the city's business license schedule in Chapter 8 of the Municipal Code.
All right, we will gather again for that one in 2 weeks as well. That brings us to the end of our agenda. Any questions or comments, general questions from the council? I'd like to mention that if you see an extra number of firemen around town tomorrow over the next couple of days, the City of Hoover will be hosting the annual Fire Chiefs Association Convention at the Winfrey Hotel. Chief, thank you for once again being host to that and bringing that here. The mayor will be welcoming them, over 300 fire chiefs, to the city in the morning. Anyone from the audience have public comment tonight? Yes, sir. Yeah, if you come on down and give us your name and address, please, you're welcome to speak. Yes, please.
Yeah, my name's Richard Trucks Jr. Live at 1057 Beaumont Avenue. I've been on the Beaumont Homeowners Association board for a little less than a year now. John Lenore I recruited John, maybe unfortunately for him, but we have a question. So we're a planned unit development that was built by Signature Homes 2007 to 2009. The covenants and ARC guidelines clearly state on the four corners of the document that on-street parking is prohibited. It's a big issue. We're actually having neighbors, as we try to enforce the architectural guidelines, threaten to sue us if we don't enforce them fully and restrict on-street parking. We've tried multiple things, signs, fines, things like that. Nothing seems to work. So we reached out to the street department. We would like to put tow-away signs up in the neighborhood. The street department deferred us to the council to see, they said the street department would have to put those up or approve those being put up, or a traffic study would have to be done. So we're just really looking out. We've already purchased some signs. I've got a preview of them. They look really nice. We'll post them at 3 places within the neighborhood, give people plenty of time to find alternative solutions to their parking issues. But it's just a further way where we can not have so much of our time and our regular work days taken up by homeowner association complaints. So any guidance on that?
Mr. Trucks, it is a rare occurrence where the city would have put in place an ordinance, and it typically comes as a result of a public safety recommendation. So where there may be somewhere where a fire truck or a police truck car may have a difficulty accessing it, Otherwise, on-street parking is not prohibited in the city, with the rare exception of a few. Certainly, it can be considered. Perhaps Mr. Martin or Mr. Corley, if we could speak with Mr. Trucks after the meeting, just to speak to what options may be available within the confines of our ordinances today. I think that'd be great.
Great, thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you for being
We'll
here.
hang out after the meeting. Thank you.
Anyone else have a public comment tonight? Ms. Ritchie?
There's Article 13 of the Hoover zoning ordinance approved in 1996, that the intent of this ordinance is to preserve the existing stands of trees and/or to replace valuable tree canopy that is often lost due to development. Then the Stormwater Management Report in January of 2021, Section 7.1. Post-construction stormwater management. 2 impacts of construction and development. Development leads to different types and more pollutants, that is, trash, debris, sediment, oil, etc. Number 2, development increases the impervious surfaces areas, resulting in increase of stormwater runoff. As a result of development, stream banks are more susceptible to scouring, and the downstream areas have a higher potential of flooding. That's exactly what's happened to Pinewood because of Magnolia Grove. All of that was clear cut, and then the retention pond does not work when we have large rains. I want to know, does this really what the city of Hoover intends to do, or is it just the new developments are great and wonderful, and the people that have lived here for 30 years we don't give a crap about? I thought y'all were supposed to represent all of the residents of Hoover, but I'm getting the feeling that the only people that you care about are the great new developments, the great new this, the great new that, and that we don't matter, even though we've been paying property taxes for 30 years. I just wish somebody would reach out to us and try to help us figure out a solution to the problem.
Mr. Rice, could we call on you for a comment, please, sir? And Ms. Ritchie, would you, we know who you are. Would you give us your name and address, please, ma'am?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No problem.
I forgot. Rebecca Ritchie, 4911 Twin Pine Circle.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Rice.
Yeah, Mr. Lyda, Ms. Ritchie, you should have been copied on an email that went out today, so please double check and see if you got that. We communicated with about 4 of the residents that are downhill from Magnolia Grove that we'll be sending a third-party engineering firm out to do an analysis of the retention pond, all the drainage infrastructure of Magnolia Grove, and actually the downstream impact and what is taking place. So we're sending out a third-party firm to take a look at everything that Ms. Ritchie has addressed with us, to see if there are impacts that can be attributed to what's uphill from them, if that makes sense. And we'll certainly make all those results available to the residents.
Very good.
Thank you, I appreciate that. But as of 4 o'clock, I hadn't gotten an email, but I'll check.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Anyone else? Hearing none, we're adjourned.